So this is an opinion piece by Jez Corden from Windows Central, okay? He says, if Microsoft really is bringing Steam and Epic Game Store, etc. to Xbox consoles, it needs to answer these big questions, okay? So Microsoft has already opened up one of Pandora's Xbox. Now they're also teasing opening up another, bringing Steam and Epic Game Store to the Xbox consoles. He says Microsoft opened the Pandora's Box earlier this year, following rumors and speculations that Microsoft revealed that it also brings Sea of Thieves, Grounded, Pentiment, and Hi-Fi Rush to PlayStation, ending decades of console gaming tradition. Microsoft increased support of the PlayStation ecosystem and injected even more cash into the Microsoft gaming operations, which leaped by 40% in revenue last quarter, thanks to the part of acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Now, Microsoft has insisted that the initial experiment will only evolve these 4 games, but given how high Grounded and Sea of Thieves have been riding on PlayStation Store, it's fair to assume that even more Xbox games will come to PlayStation in the future. Just to answer that, Sea of Thieves and Grounded are both co-op multiplayer type games, so you're playing with buddies. So I would still say it's obviously Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush are single player games, and they're not as high on the list, right? So Grounded and Sea of Thieves are kind of different, right? So I'm not saying they're not going to bring Starfield. Obviously, it would make sense if they brought Starfield over to PlayStation. But at the same time, they would pick and choose games that are co-op so you can play cross-platform and whatnot, right? So he says, I would assume that Xbox games will come into PlayStation in the future as Halo, Forza, Gears of War, Starfield. We have no real idea if anything of this is off the table, which begs the question. How will Xbox differentiate to drive interest in the next generation without promise of exclusive games? Okay. Microsoft has discussed internally in such teams that the next Xbox will represent the biggest technological leap in the generation so far. Xbox Game Pass also continues to be the best value subscription in all of gaming, which could eventually see games like Call of Duty itself enter the service. But perhaps Microsoft is banking on yet another unique feature to remain competitive next gen as well. He says Xbox lead Phil Spencer hinted in a recent interview that it wants to see PC storefronts like Epic Game Store and Steam and itch.io and GOG.com available on Xbox. This also would be a huge departure from the established console doctrine, which also suggests the closed ecosystem subsidize comparatively cheaper hardware while remaining competitive with the high-end gaming PCs. Although obviously nowhere near the super high-end, opening up the Xbox's competing stores potentially disrupts the model too, which extension could also disrupt today's Xbox console user. Microsoft has lots of questions to answer, but before it opens up again another Pandora's, Xbox paying customers deserve answers in these questions before they are formally announced, made in my view. He says, 1, will we still have to pay to play online? The answer is yes. Yes, you will, okay? Because here's the thing. The people that are on console don't own a PC, right? Because that's why they own a console. Majority of people don't own a PC and console, okay? Lots of console owners don't own PC, and they know that. Hence why you still have to pay. Because if you had a PC, then you would probably pay, play on your PC. Now I get, right? Even Dolphin said that he picked up an Xbox so he could sit on his couch and play. Lono said that as well. He likes to just sit on the couch and play consoles, not sitting at the computer, and I totally get that. Okay, hence why I moved my television set inside my office, so I could sit and play on the television set instead of playing on my monitors, okay? He says, as noted in the intro, console hardware is subsidized heavily by the service and software attached to them. Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo sell consoles at very slim profit margins and make up the difference by selling games, microtransactions, and subscription services on top of it. It's similar to how printer businesses models work, where the companies like Hewlett-Packard sell the printer for relatively cheap. They'll give you the printer to make money back on the far more lucrative closed ecosystem of the Ink service. Now, you can even buy the Ink subscription these days, and that's even Ink DRM. Okay, in that case, Microsoft's most profitable innovation was the creation of Xbox Live, complete with the monthly subscription Xbox Live Gold, and now Xbox Live Game Pass Core. Gives you access to multiplayer services, exclusive discounts, and small pool of older games to play at the leisure of the $10 per month. Now, Xbox Game Pass Core continues to generate enormous amounts of revenue for the Xbox platform. Removing it overnight would eat a huge chunk out of the profitability of Xbox consoles in general. Even though if it feels like a relic of bygone age, removing it would also be difficult to console platforms already enduring squeezed profit margins, owning the sticky price silicon, inflation, and other factors. It says if Microsoft opened the Xbox to Steam, Epic Game Store, and GOG, and so on, would they still require Xbox Live Gold to play online for those storefronts? Steam, AL do not charge a fee to play online in the respective platforms, nor will they ever. I can't imagine Microsoft will have a paywall to Steam, etc. on Xbox for access, but it creates another question. How will Microsoft monetize the Xbox console hardware in this scenario? Will the hardware end up being more expensive to be more profitable? Will it take out the price less competitive for Sony PlayStation 6 and Nintendo Switch 2? And could it offer a more powerful differential against those competitors? If Microsoft has to drop Xbox Live Gold multiplayer fee, but I wonder if the ecosystem work long-term in that situation. It also would indeed be an old universe that also could play Call of Duty, Fallout 76, or Sea of Thieves premium multiplayer experience for free via Steam on my console, but I need to pay a subscription to play via Xbox furthermore. Here's what I think they're going to do. Based on what I just read, they could remove the fee, so you don't think you're actually paying the fee to play online, but to get Steam, to get GOG, to get Epic Game Store, they would just increase the price of Game Pass. So instead of paying $15 or $18 a month now you're paying $20 to $22, maybe $25. And yes, they're not charging you now for that, but now they're charging you $25. And I'm not saying this is what they're doing. I'm saying this is what I can think they could do, where they charge you $25 because they're just putting the cost towards you. So they take it away. They say, yeah, you don't have to pay anymore for the online service, but then the prices go up by 30%. Okay, whatever it is. He says, number 2, how would you avoid degrading the console experience? He says, sticking with the topic of Call of Duty and other multiplayer games in the future, Xbox console will have Microsoft reconcile the multiplayer pools between the separate game version. On Steam, games like Call of Duty, Overwatch, etc. often anti-cheat layers installed on top of them prevent the hackers with mixed success. They also expect keyboard and mouse inputs and often aim assist disabled. Some games are even more peripheral aware than others. However, Microsoft is another platform holders that also shown the near total ability to detect hacking tools like XIM, which convert keyboard and mouse signals, spoof controller signals, and also Xbox console, which give players the absolute massive advantage. If Xbox comes closer to Windows to enable Windows 32 games like those delved in by Steam, won't that simply ramp up the hackability of the Xbox console in question? And many will ask. I think the answer is yes to this, but at the same time, they would look at it and go, does it affect our bottom line? Are more people going to cheat or less people going to cheat? Is this going to be a bigger thing? I don't know. That would have to be an eternal thing that they would have to try to figure out. He says, furthermore, if Xbox is now offering Steam versions of identical Xbox games compete with the free multiplayer, that could negatively impact the matchmaking speeds on the Xbox consoles. Already the setting disabled crossplay between console and PC to obscure Xbox, and the fact that the crossplay is enabled by default has degraded the console pool and competitive multiplayer on Xbox. Players who disable crossplay end up in the much smaller pool of players, making matchmaking completely impossible in some regions and some games. Crossplay was a great idea for co-op and PvE games, letting players play together, but crossplay in competitive shooters has been a bit of a disaster for game quality and balance. Mouse and keyboard players can also turn faster and acquire targets more rapidly with the mouse. On the flip side, the aim assist on console will provide uneven advantage for other situations in other games as well. So by opening up the floodgates of PC players this way, Xbox is potentially going to force even more Xbox players to matchmake with PC players, which then could mean more hackers, fewer console players in the pool, and lead to the downward spiral of general first-person shooter quality of the console, and pretty much a pioneer competitive console first-person shooter. That is, Microsoft doesn't have a plan in place. I suspect people would like to know what the plan is. I can see this, that not maybe every game, okay, based on what he's saying here, maybe not every game, even though they get Steam on to Xbox or Epic Store on or GOG, maybe not every game is compatible with it. Maybe they pick and choose what games they do to bring over to console that you can play the Steam games on Xbox, right? Who knows? The third thing he talks about is why would developers still support Xbox Store versions to sit side by side with Steam? He says, with Microsoft putting Steam and Epic Game Store on the Xbox, it will, of course, bring a lot of benefits. Games that have historical skipped Xbox or simply aren't interested in the console ecosystem or simply can't factor into their development costs will become the de facto available on Xbox as a result. This could even extend to Sony's games, which are also available on both Epic Store, Game Store, and Steam Store via PC and Windows. God of War running on Xbox hardware becomes a little bit more likely the situation, but Sony may opt in to block the games where rather the deal and the optics could be presented. And I was just going to say that, right? I think that the people are saying, oh, cool, I can play God of War on my Xbox now through Steam. Like, think about that. That's a mouthful, right? I have an Xbox that I log into Steam that I'm now playing God of War, right? They could just block it, especially with this recognizing the disc or the code or the thing. It would be easy for them to say, hey, this user, this, Mac address or whatever can't access this game because they're an Xbox user, not a PlayStation user. That could possibly be a thing as well, right? Either way, it also creates a problem if a developer already has tight costs and thin margins. It's simply because more logical to forego an Xbox version of the game entirely. Microsoft has worked incredibly hard to bring games and franchises like Yakuza, Final Fantasy XIV, Persona, and also the Xbox ecosystem. Now developers who perhaps were already questioning investment in the Xbox store will do even more. He says they truly open up the system at that point. Microsoft can't force developers to offer their games on Xbox Store in exchange for availability on Steam. Furthermore, Steam and Xbox Store versions of the games often have different prices and points and different sales events, different launch dates, and more. Microsoft might be opening up a can of worms here. And what's to stop a scenario where Xbox players are forced to use Steam simply because the developers don't think the Xbox port is worthwhile? What about the Xbox consumers who don't want Steam or simply want Xbox experience and Xbox library and always that they've always had? Was Microsoft asked by any of the existing customers if people actually want the scenario that they're proposing? Are the benefits worth the cost? Are there even real benefits to beginning with? Or could they also be a case of we'll like it? Like the bundle Xbox Connect nobody wanted in 2013. Again, if and when Steam happens to come on to Microsoft on the Xbox, maybe there's just a certain amount of game that, one, maybe they're not games that are developed for Xbox, and maybe it's just games that are developed on Steam that are only PC release that can now be played on Xbox, right? So obviously, if the deal goes through, I would assume that they're working deals out where certain games are on and certain games are off in this hypothetical world that we're talking about if Steam and other companies are on. I would assume games sort of like Enshrouded or games like, I don't know, another PC game that's just on PC. Maybe that would be able to be played on Xbox, but games like themselves, like Call of Duty's on PC, Call of Duty's on Xbox, you wouldn't be able to play the Call of Duty version of it on Steam's version on the Xbox. You would have to play, that on here. I don't know how they would do this. This seems like a fundamental nightmare because this is like how many SKUs do you have? If you're business owners and you have a bunch of products on your shelves, that's a lot of SKUs. So when you're doing inventory, it's an absolute nightmare, right? Well, if you're doing this with video games, it's like, well, this game can be on, but this game can't be on, and this game's from PlayStation, and this one's over here, but you can play it here, but you can't play it here, and then this would be it'd be one of those things, like, where all the red lines, like someone's a investigator trying to figure out who the murderer is, like, this guy's a suspect. It would look absolutely crazy on which games can work and which games can't work. I would hate to be the person that has to do this if this goes through. He says, so many other questions. He says, there could be a huge benefit of bringing Steam into other PC stores on Xbox console ecosystem. Getting games that have console exclusives on PlayStation potentially as a consequence for Xbox being more like PC-like. It's clear benefit dropping the Xbox Live Gold paywall, or more Steam Deck-like. Could also offer huge differentiation against the PlayStation as well, but there's also so many unanswered questions. He says, I doubt players will be booting up into Windows desktop environment, installing programs and dealing with Windows UAC pop-ups, but it does beg the question, will the user's experience look like on console PC hybrid? Will a PlayStation block their games via Steam and Epic Game Stores on Xbox hardware? Will Steam Workshop and other mods be supported? Will it be able to sideload stuff like Genshin Impact on Riot Games Launcher? Will the hardware remain subsidized and affordable with Microsoft getting less of the cut, maybe even no cut at all, if players flock into the Steam instead of Xbox? Is Xbox Game Pass alone good enough to fund all of this? How do you generate that a console experience with the remain of unmaimed when it comes to hackers, crossplay, and different input, etc., etc.? Says, I can't help but feel that Xbox could be walking into another 2013 Xbox One reveal situation here, and where they create the heaps of confusion by trying to up in familiarity chasing predictions and trend data. Ironically, many Xbox predictions in 2013 for the future of gaming became true in the end, but people didn't want to hear them nor accept them. People don't like being forced to accept change, and even the console competitors are gearing up for some more open future like this than being unclear about the plans, potentially even worse than just saying nothing at all. He says, I hope that Microsoft is prepared furthermore, and I hope Microsoft doesn't take the console audience for granted again. He is right about this, and we've talked about this in the past, right? In the past, people wanted to give every person a microphone and a camera, and everyone was like, screw you, I'm not having a microphone and camera on me. But then Apple and Android came out with this thing called the smartphone, and the smartphone had a microphone and a camera built in with GPS on you at all times, and you were happy to pay $800, $1,000, $2,000 for that mobile phone in your pocket, right? A lot of people were talking about how they don't want Xbox and Microsoft in their house forcing them to have a Kinect, but yet now everyone has Zoom calls and they have computers and they have laptops and they have cameras already built into the stuff just so many years, just 10 years later. So is what Microsoft is doing right now, potentially with Steam, GOG, and Epic Game Store, this seems really bad maybe now for some people, but let's think about this 10 years from now. Will that be the standard? Will all systems, will PlayStation and Nintendo, will you be able to play Steam on all these systems? Will you be able to play GOG on all these systems? I don't know. These are a couple questions to ask, and what do you think in the comment section down below? Do you think that this is going to go through? And if it does go through with Steam and GOG and Epic Game Store, how would it work? Is it going to be nitpicked or a meal piece together of what games work and what games don't work on this? It sounds like an absolute nightmare on their part. As a consumer, as long as it's not a nightmare on our part, I don't care where it comes from. If I could play Steam games on my Xbox or Epic Store on my Xbox, great, fantastic. But if I have to jump through hoops and download this app and do it like this, people on computers don't even want to move the cursor from here to here, Steam, Epic Game Store, and GOG. They don't want to do that. They just want to stick with one, and all I have to do is move the mouse a half a click. So if I'm on Xbox and I have to go through all these different menus and different things, I don't think that's going to fly. But these are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment section down below. Please make sure you share, like, and subscribe. And if you like what I do here, check out some of our other videos. Thanks for watching.